reading from the Holy Gospel according to Luke. Jesus said to his disciples, "There will be signs in the sun, the moon, and the stars, and on earth nations will be in dismay, perplexed by the roaring of the sea and the waves. People will die of fright in anticipation of what is coming upon the world, for the powers of the heavens will be shaken. And then they will see the Son of Man coming in a cloud with power and great glory. But when these signs begin to happen, stand erect and raise your heads, because your redemption is at hand. Beware that your hearts do not become drowsy from carousing and drunkenness and the anxieties of daily life, and that day catch you by surprise like a trap. For that day will assault everyone who lives on the face of the earth. Be vigilant at all times, and pray that you will have the strength to escape the tribulations that are imminent and to stand before the Son of Man." The Gospel of the Lord. Well, I have to confess that I was hoping to speak with you today of an angel with a message of a child wrapped in swaddling clothes, of shepherds, magi, and of a guiding star. I was hoping to be able to speak with you of all that we may have come to love in anticipating Christmas. But considering our readings on this first Sunday of Advent, we have no such luck. Our readings are rather apocalyptic in nature. Apocalyptic, yes, which is to say of the end times, but of a time that also and undoubtedly contains a silver lining, a slimmer of hope, still with light coming over the horizon. With images of nations in dismay, roaring seas, fright, and powers of the heavens shaken, this seems no way to begin a new liturgical year. It seems no way to begin the season of preparing for Christmas, and yet here we are, a dispatch from the apocalypse. The word apocalypse means to uncover or to reveal. What popular culture often misses in its depiction of the end times is the world that is to be revealed. The end times are the end of one era, yes, but an end that ushers in a new beginning. And herein lies the promise made to us today and forever. Jesus speaks here of cosmic events in the sun, the moon, and the stars, the tumult of the ocean, the shaking of heavenly powers. And in many ways, the past couple years may have felt exactly like this. In many ways, it can feel as if he is, in fact, describing our very lives and the very environment in which we now live. The sun is more harmful than ever before, the stars less visible than they used to be, the waters of the earth wreaking more destruction in the last couple of decades than previous generations witnessed a century ago. Just ask anyone who took a dip in the river that briefly was the Vine Street Expressway after Hurricane Ida. Add to this the effects of a pandemic, and these signs seem to be here. What Jesus is talking about seems to be happening now. And yet, through it all, one of the remarkable aspects of this prophecy is the moral exhortation and the life raft, if you'll forgive the pun, that is provided us from Jesus. He tells us that when we see these signs, stand, raise your heads. No need to run or hide in fear. Redemption is at hand. This is a reminder of the ultimate promise that orients our lives, the ultimate promise that orients our hope, the promise that leads us toward the horizon no matter how tumultuous things are in the present. What Jesus is promising is not to be missed, because between the first Christmas and the last judgment, between those two events is the unfolding of our lives. between these two events of heavenly and cosmic significance is the unfolding of the choices we make. Our lives are unfolding in these end times. They are unfolding in our end times, and we can call them that because, as far as we know, this is the only time we get here. And so the poet Mary Oliver has a good question for us all. Tell me, what is it you plan to do with your one wild and precious life? What do we plan to do in Advent 2021, since God continues to make this promise? What does it mean to us that God still comes to us in the form of an infant, as love incarnate? What does it mean to us that God came to us as one of us? What kind of message is God trying to get to us this Advent about our humanity and what we are capable of for and with one another? That we have the ability to once again ponder these questions at the beginning of another Advent means the promise that Jesus made then is still alive and still on offer for us today. Through this promise, that which we all received at some point in our lives continues to be nourished, and it continues to be nurtured. That which we have received, our faith, that which orients us toward the promised future, is also that which has us loving God and loving neighbor in the immediate, even in the midst of signs of dismay and the shaking of the powers of heaven. The faith which we have received once again receives life, and it once again receives light. We prepare this year, as we have in Advents past, to once again receive the light that God provides. And the nature of this preparation, in this season of preparation, is to wait. We have received a promise that allows us to wait, the patience for waiting. But the reality is that we can only really wait if what we are waiting for has already begun in us and for us. And it began at that first Christmas for us. So the waiting we do in the midst of the promise we have for life and redemption is holy waiting. And holy waiting is never of movement from nothing to something, but of movement from something to something more. From something, the promise Jesus makes to us today, to something more, the realization of what is to come. And in an even greater sense of support, we do this holy waiting, or the living out of our lives of faith. We do this together. Together we wait, and together we hope. Together as a community of support, lifting up what is already underway, gathered around a promise. That is what prayer and celebration are all about, gathering together around a promise, rallying in our faith. This is what our Eucharist is all about, saying thank you for the seed that has been planted and for the life that is to come in the very midst of the life we experience today. And so we wait for what has already been seen. We wait for what we have already experienced in all the yesterdays and todays in which we have experienced it. It is our memories which lead us forward. Our faith, supported by what has been, provides the courage to hope in what will be. In this way, we live with courage, trusting that there is a spiritual power within all of us, that there is a faith in our lives that strengthens us, that there is a hope in our lives that bids us stand, that there is a love in our lives that moves us to love in what could be an otherwise bleak world. This is how we dare to say that God is a God of love, even in the face of hatred. This is why we can claim that God is a God of life, even when we see death and destruction and agony. And so we stand on the threshold of this new liturgical season as we find ourselves at the crossroads of another Advent. What will we do with our one wild and precious life of faith? How will we be inspired by the promise made to us? And how can we continue to be open to the one who makes it?